This will be a very quick episode. Roughly, we want to point this out. We have been saying this statistic for years. And I remember recently the Warner Brothers documentary on Calexit asked me about this statistic. And I specifically pointed out to them that this statistic was wrong. And they decided not to put that in the documentary. And I've had a lot of reporters call me out on this. And I always said, that's wrong. That's just wrong. So basically, from day one when Calexit got big, the newspaper would say there's been 220 failed attempts to split the state apart or secede. So they would go, this is the typical talking point of the media was there have been over 200 attempts to split California up or secede. And the idea was like, these guys might be talking about secession recently, but we've done this a bunch and it always failed. Totally false. There have been over 200 attempts to split California up and almost no attempts at secession. And so this phrase by the media that there's been over 200 attempts to split California up or secede is a total lie. There's been over 200 attempts to split California up, not hundreds of attempts to secede. Actually, there has been 200 attempts. Sorry, I got that wrong. 200. There have been over 200 split attempts in California, but there have been only 3 secession attempts. One in 1855, right after California became a state. One in 2005 with Jeff Morissette and the Committee to Explore California Secession as part of Move On in response to George W. Bush enacting the Iraq War, and 2 of the 3 million people protests in America occurring in California, and this movement, the Calexit movement, which got big in 2016. So there's over 200 attempts to split California up. There's only been 3 secession attempts. When Lincoln was president, as outrage to George W. Bush, and 2016 with Trump. That's 3, nowhere near hundreds. And the media would put this out there to go, people attempt a secession so many times it never happened. Lies. The 1855 attempt was taken so seriously, that's why Abraham Lincoln built the Transcontinental Railroad. Very serious. 2005, the split with Move On over George Bush, they fired that guy. 2016, we got 30% of Californians to pay attention. So total lie to say there's over 220 attempts to split California up and or secede. Hundreds of attempts to split California up. 3 attempts to secede. And finally, we got someone admitted in that. Throughout its 172-year history, California has weathered more than 220 failed attempts to dismantle the state into as many as 6 smaller states, according to the California State Library. That's a fact. What the media would do is say California has weathered more than 220 failed attempts to dismantle the state and or secede. Not part of the original fact. It's what the media tried to put in there, and it's been a total lie. This is what we have said. There hasn't been hundreds of attempts at secession. There's only been 3. And the media is getting it wrong. And finally, we get someone in the mainstream media to admit the truth. So San Bernardino is trying to secede and form a new state. And finally, the Associated Press talks about this, and they're trying to slam this idea. So they go, hey, there's tons of try to split California up attempts, and they always fail. And here's the quote. Throughout its 172-year history, California has weathered more than 220 failed attempts to dismantle the state into as many as 6 smaller states, according to the California State Library. So finally, for the first time, a mainstream media article admits what we have been saying for a decade. This is classic Calexit. We say these statistics and facts, nobody prints them, everybody thinks we're crazy, and then all of a sudden an actual legit expert in the media prints it, and it's accepted, and it backs up everything we said for years. We did this with secession's legal with Texas versus White, and that consent of the states is there. They tried to act like we lied and we didn't know what we were talking about, and then eventually admitted we were right. So here again, another thing where they said, you're wrong. It's not like that. We've been saying, no, there hasn't been 200 attempts at secession, only 3. We were all called liars. Nobody backed us. And now the Associated Press completely backs us up. That's the Calexit game. They'll say we're liars. They'll say we're liars, and we don't know what we're talking about. And we were right the whole time. And then all of a sudden, the media admits it. This is what happened with the CNN article that admitted 10 of the facts that we've been talking about for years were completely correct. They never admitted that. But on the eve of midterm elections, CNN finally admitted in an article talking about California secession that about 10 of the facts that we said were completely true. Nobody ever admitted that until then. So it's part of the game. You're lying until one day they admit you're telling the truth. So here's another thing. It's a fact we've been saying for years. They said we didn't know what we were talking about. They were all wrong, and the media finally admits that. Okay. Talk to you soon.